Santa Frida, Babusita.
And you have to say it with that cadence too. Right.
Yeah.
But really,
Something happened here. You got your camera? First? Yeah. Oh, my clothes on.
Welcome. We have some Girl Scouts here. That's pretty awesome. What do you guys think about that? Kids loving art? So how many people is this your first Friday art walk? Can I see a show of hands? Excellent. We love newbies. So you can either follow along the guided tour tonight and you'll hear from all of the featured artists, or you're welcome to explore the art walk venues on your own. Make sure you get an art walk guide because it will tell you everything that's happening tonight. And Kaya over here, right here, behind this nice block for some of you, has art walk guide, so be sure to pick one up. So the reason we can put on the art walk for free is because we have some really amazing sponsors, and this month's sponsor is Green Hill Humane Society. So Sasha and her special friend are going to talk to us real quick.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you all for coming out this evening. You know, this community is so strong as a team, and together as part of Green Hill Humane Society and Little Caesar here, we're very proud to work with Lane Arts Council. We are here sponsoring the Art Walk this month because we so greatly depend on and are grateful for the artists in the community and those of you that love art in the community. We have a gala coming up on November 10th called Art for Animals, and it's an event not to be missed, including lots of unique, wonderful artwork from both emerging and established artists, Mr. Kanaga included. And yeah, just thank you so much for this opportunity, Jessica and Lane Arts Council. And if you'd like more information about Caesar, who is adoptable, or Art for Animals, our gala event, please visit green-hill.org. Thank you.
We'd also like to thank our media sponsor, Eugene Magazine. So can we get some love for Green Hill and Eugene Magazine? Or you can just come if you want. And now I would like to recognize our host for the Art Walk. She's going to be interviewing all of the lovely artists you're going to meet. She is the newly reigning Slug Queen, Santa Frida Babusita. And in her regular life, you may know her as Mija Andrade from Organ Supported Living Program. She is the development coordinator. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Here she is.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm very honored to be leading the Art Walk tonight. It's one of my most favorite things to do. My full name actually is Santa Frida Elisa Refugio Babusita, and I am the patron slug of arts and culture. So this is what it's all about. Lane Arts Council is a leader in arts and culture in our community, and so I'm so excited to be here and participating in this and promoting the work that they're doing as well. And featuring our wonderful artists and learning more about them and their work. And so I want to introduce Robert Kanaga And this is his show that we are experiencing right now. And we want to hear more from you, Robert, about this exhibit and this particular body of work. Tell us more.
Okay. Well, long story long. When I was president of Oregon Mozart Players, I went around the state and got one bottle of wine from every winery in Oregon for 3 years.
And then he drank them all.
And I drank them all. Actually, my wife bought most of them. And in that process, I got to meet an amazing array of winemakers and wine growers and vineyard masters and just extraordinary people that are definitely of the earth. And they understand what it takes to make wine and why it is so beautiful here in Oregon. And I was painting kind of landscapey stuff. I wasn't really locked in on something. And then I had some paintings in the back of my car, and I was taking up to Iris Vineyard. And Danuta Pfeiffer came out and was in the parking lot with me talking, and she looked in the back of my car and said, "Now, what's this?" And I said, "Well, these are going up to Pfeiffer, or going up to Iris." And she said, "Where's ours?" And I said, "Okay." And so I walked around the vineyard that day, about an hour, and I went home and I painted them a painting and put it up in the tasting room. And Robin sat down and had a tear in his eye, and he said, "That's my property." And I said, "Okay, this is good." And so a couple of years later, I kept doing this process, exploring the earth, the types of soil, the land, the water, everything that it takes to make wine. And a couple of years later, I had a show last year at the state capitol, a 3-month show at the state capitol, and the only show they've ever done at the state capitol, a one-person show. And so I went up to Pfeiffer to get my painting, and take it up there. And Robin and Danuta said, no, it's for sale. And I said, "Well, make me a deal." And so a case of Blue Dot and a case of Merlot, and it was theirs. And so I started trading wine for art, and I've done quite well. Wineries are quick to say, "Oh, we want that one, here's some wine." And so I have Avalon and Pfeiffer and Brigadoon and you name it. It's been fun. But all of these paintings basically were of that ilk and mutations off of it. There's one over here that was actually the first oil and wax painting I ever did, which was for I had a one-man show at the Coos Art Museum in 14. And that was for that show. And if you ever want a wake-up call, volunteer to jury a show and then forget about it. And then have a year before the show, have them call up and say, "Do you want to come look at the space that your one-person show is going to be in?"
Oh, no.
And so I drove over, and after my heart attack had stopped, I went home and painted like a madman for a year. So it was a good experience. And this was kind of, putting this together, I was kind of worried if I'd have enough work for a show. And then I started going around to all the wineries and all the museums and places that I have work and gathering it up, and I got enough. So this piece right here, if any of you know Avicella Winery down by Roseburg, well, Earl Jones and I were in Vietnam at the same time, and we discovered that through Facebook and started talking. And Greg Jones, his son, is a soil biologist and in the wine department at Southern Oregon University, then moved up to Linfield and took over the wine studies department. And he called me up and said, "We need a painting." And so they ended up with this one. And that's going to be in the wine studies department. And thankfully for me, it's right across the street from where they have the International Pinot Noir celebration every year. So I bet you somebody's going to see it. So, and anyway, if anybody has any questions, let me know. And just as a note, this little chair over here, that chair was my first drawing when I came back to school at 40. I had stopped doing art at 15. I started doing everything else. I had a chance to go to Paris for the summer through Oregon State, talented and gifted program that they did when I was a kid, freshman in high school. And my mother was ecstatic, and my dad said, "Art for fags, you're going to work." So I stopped doing art at 15 and started playing rock and roll and raising hell and growing my hair out and doing all the stuff you're supposed to do when you're that age. And I just kind of abandoned art. And I did a few sketches in Europe, but I never really got into it. I came back from Micronesia in the anthropology department and just wasn't satisfied with my drawing skills, so I went to sign up for a drawing class, and they said, "Well, this is an advanced drawing class and you can't take it, you're not an art student." And I said, "Who's in charge?" So Ken O'Connell was in charge, thank God, and Ken said, "Sign him up." And so that was my very first drawing. And Margaret Prentice said, "Why are you taking anthropology?" So that was the start of my new 28-year career now in art. Anyway, any questions? Any answers?
I have a
Question.
Okay.
Talk a little bit about the wax, your use of wax and paint, and which paintings might.
Well, they're all wax and oil, and I've discovered that some might notice that my colors are a little more brilliant than a lot of the colors you see, and the reason that is the refractive quality of the materials that I use and the density of the pigments that I use. I make my own paints sometimes, and I use very highly dense pigmented paints. And so when you add those mediums together, it brightens and brings the key of the color up. And so you get these extraordinary reds and extraordinary blues that you just don't get otherwise. I'm doing a demonstration at 1 o'clock tomorrow in there, and I'm going to be mixing up and starting a new canvas in there, and I have no idea what direction I'm going to take, but we'll know by the end of the day. So, anything else?
Robert,
Yes.
can you divulge what kind of pigments and wax you use?
Oh, I use Graham paints that are made here in Oregon, mostly. I was telling someone earlier, I got very lucky. How many of you knew Hattie Mae Nixon? Know Hattie Mae Nixon? Docent at the university for 100 years. And her husband was Max Nixon, who was the head of the jewelry department at the university. And together, they had collected 9 warehouses of material over the years. You name it, they had it. And so I was lucky enough to be involved with helping sort through that, finding paintings by people like James Ivory, and that he'd bought when the students were starving, And so at the end of it all, the guy said, "Well, do you want Max's paints?" And I said, "Sure." So they brought me 2 boxes of paints from the 1950s and 60s, and when they actually put pigments in the paint. And so I've had a lot of fun with that. A lot of these colors come directly out of that, including the last 3 existing tubes of manganese blue, which I keep in a safe in my studio. But yeah, I've got a friend who moved back from Paris whose job for years was making paint for artists. And I've got his whole collection of pigments and his mall and everything that he had. He developed cancer probably from the pigments that he was using. And he moved back to America. He lived here in town, and he's passed away since. But he said, "Well, make me a deal." And I said, "Well, tell me." And he says, $70. So I bought 2 boxes of raw pigments and a glass mull, and on all the other accoutrements for $70. I always felt guilty, but he was happy. So I do that a lot. I mix a lot of interesting colors. So some of it you will not see anywhere else. So anything else?
And what kind of wax?
I use Dorland's wax. I started out using Trimar, which when I was at the arts buyer at the University of Oregon bookstore, I discovered this company back east that a lot of the prominent painters used. and they mixed custom materials for people. And we got into a conversation, and I used to sell their wax medium, which was beeswax with a tiny bit of petroleum wax and real turpentine, not gum turpentine, but the real turpentine. And they would make this and send it out, and now they can't ship it. So because it's volatile. So I started having to settle for Dolan's, but I've learned to add some stuff to it to make it, as brilliant as the other stuff was. So, but I'll be showing some of that stuff tomorrow.
So if you'd like to ask Robert any other questions, he'll be around here.
I'm wondering.
And our next stop, we'll leave in 5 minutes. Our next stop is going to be Raven Frameworks, which is just on the next block at 325 West 4th Avenue.
And there are some cards over here on the table for people. There are some little cards that I had made for the state capitol show that are over here on the table. If people want to come and wander around and look stuff, feel free. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. See you at the next stop.
How you doing?
I'm George.
Yes, we met before.
Yep. I did your CEO. I did a walk.
Somebody asked me what I listened to in my studio, and I said everything. You can tell from my spontaneous. Here's my card.
You get on the microphone and let people to sign up.
Hey!
Before you leave, don't forget to sign up for the free tickets to Teatro Malago. We will draw before we leave this area. So you might be a winner in like 2 minutes.
in the sun by now. Before I hand it over to Lior Esponko, I would like to make a brief mention about the Lane Arts Council First Friday Art Walk. There's a lot of work going into building a more beautiful, vibrant, healthier downtown. And the one thing that stayed consistent for over 20 years is the First Friday Art Walk, thanks to the diligence of the Lane Arts Council.
Ladies, if you
Yes,
could move
please
up
stop
a
and
little
give the Lane
so
Arts
people
Council
could
a
get
hand.
behind.
Thank you, Isaac. Hi, everyone. I'm Lior Esponko, the Executive Director of Lane Arts Council. Welcome to First Friday Art Walk, Mural Tour, and huge fun concert. What a night. This is awesome. You know, as Isaac said, we've been coordinating the Art Walk for many years. We also do arts education in schools and support artists, and we're really here to support the community, engage the community in the arts. And I know a lot of you are dedicated art workers, you're dedicated art enthusiasts. We really appreciate your support of the arts and all that we're trying to do collaboratively. It's been a heck of a week. I don't know, did some of you guys go to the parade and Sunday Streets last weekend? What a blast! And then we had these incredible muralists here all week. We have this event. Tomorrow night's the Whitaker Block Party. I'm telling you, this town is becoming this incredible arts and culture destination, and it's thanks to the City of Eugene, it's thanks to our partners, it's thanks to people like you. You really love the arts, you care about the arts, you contribute to community events, and we so appreciate you. So give it up, Eugene, for supporting the arts. You know, and the city has done an incredible job bringing these international muralists. So instead of our regular art walk tour, as you may know, we are going to be doing a mural tour. So if you don't have a guide, Jessica and Lewis are around. They'll give you an art walk guide, and inside there's an insert of all the murals that we'll be seeing, and we'll be interviewing these international muralists. They're incredible artists, they're incredible people. You're going to want to hear from them. So follow us along on the tour, and you can also come back here and enjoy the concert. We just want you to have an awesome, awesome night. And all this is really only possible because the City of Eugene so values the arts. So help me thank the City of Eugene and Huge Fun and the 20 by 21 Mural Project for making this happen. Additional sponsors, Eugene Magazine, the UO Duck Store, and World Pies. Please help me thank those incredible sponsors. All right. So as you know, every art walk we have a special host, and this host is very knowledgeable. He's actually one of the founders of the 20 by 21 Mural Project, helped connecting us to these international artists. So he's going to lead us on this mural tour, and he's an incredible local community member that has contributed so much to this project.
Hands up. How many of you seen little grates with extra little hands coming out of them somewhere around town in the last week? Yeah. Well, I'm pleased that this is the culmination of a year and a couple of months that started last March with a group of 6 people who sat around a table in one of the bars downtown with an idea. And the idea was, in 2021, we're inviting the world to come to Eugene for the World Track Championships. And we wanted the world to come here and see world-class street artists from all over the world on our walls, to build an outdoor art gallery throughout the city that we're going to live in for the next 5 years and maybe beyond, because we think this is something that once it starts, it's going to keep on rolling. And I am so pleased that for this first festival, we have had a group of 7 artists who are among the world's very best. When we started this project, we said, invite the very best in the world. Not just good, but the very, very best. And they have come. And in fact, looking around, there are artists among you as you walk. Not just the international ones, but some of the folks from Eugene here as well. I know are artists also. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here, looking at a wall that was done by a Dutch group. The Netherlands brought us Telmo Mule. And I have Telmo and Mule right here, so come on up, guys. You guys don't know what they did to create that mural. Because these guys, they arrived here with a completely different design. Utterly different design, yeah? And we said, you know, can you do something different? We gave them a little bit more of a background on the city and the vibe and the nature of this event. And to their credit, I am so impressed. They sat down and in 2 days, they came up with an amazing new design that I think captures the essence of the chill of Eugene. Now, it's not quite done. Are you guys going to be working on the wall later? All right, so when we come on back for the concert, you're going to get to see Telmo and Mule at work. So I'm going to ask them now to give you a little bit of a brief description of their inspiration for the piece.
Hello. Our inspiration, we've been here now for a week, and we sat down here last weekend to come up with a new design. We visited a lot of cities and states in the United States, but this was so far the most relaxed, mellow, and down-to-earth place we've been. And most of our work is based on moods and feelings. So this design was the feeling we got here. It's like really mellow and design, and yeah, guy just hanging around with his dog, taking a nap or thinking about other stuff and dreams. Yeah, I guess that's it.
All right, so as we're walking through past each wall, we're going to pause, take a look. If folks have any questions, we're going to have a roaming mic, I think. So if anybody has questions, you'll be able to ask. We'll see if we can answer them or confuse you further. But what you're going to see is a very broad range of styles. When we put together the list of artists for this project, every single artist on our list has a completely different style of approaching street art. And that's one of the things that we're going to enjoy. Now, any questions based on what you've seen so far on the wall? See, I looked at it and I had a question. Take a look at the dog over there. Do you notice anything but the face?
Why was the graffiti artist paid first before you actually produced? Why was the graffiti art come
the question is, why did the graffiti art come first? How many people saw this wall before they started painting? Did you see what they did? They put squiggles all over the wall. Like literally, the entire wall was a platform of squiggles. I asked the same question myself. And they had the answer actually written up on the wall. Did anybody see the words, "This is a grid"?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the grid that they used to plot out on a larger scale the image that they had already created on a smaller scale. So what they did is they took a picture of the wall after they'd created this grid of little squiggles, circles, ovally lines, weird little shapes, and then they superimposed that on the image so they knew where to draw the lines for the actual image. So
And I was wondering, well, have they just not finished the dog yet? Is that just they forgot to do that part? But apparently, there's a message there, right? What's the purpose of that little spot on the dog's face that's left a little different with the orange?
Our style always is combining different layers and different shapes and forms to create one. And this dog we wanted to use maybe a more familiar dog. So there's just 2 pieces of Pluto, the Walt Disney Pluto, hidden in there. So the orange parts that looks unfinished is just small parts of Pluto.
Wow. Hidden messages, the first of the evening. All right, folks, so what we're going to do next is we're going to start heading in that direction. Our next stop, I believe, is going to be, we're going to head down that street, and we're going to head to the next corner, just in front of the library. So you know where the library has the bagel shop just out in front? On that corner, that's where we're going to meet and talk about the next piece. But on the way, I want you to take a look at the mural. We'll end up back here at night with a street party. You'll be able to see these guys at work on the rest of the wall. So head along. We will see you at the corner of the library, just beside the bagel shop.
Hey! It's so weird, but right in there.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Karen Clark Gallery. My name is Santa Frida Elisa Refugio Babosita and I am your reigning slug queen. I am also the patron slug of arts and culture, so leading the art walk is an honor for me. And I'm really happy to be here with Karen and this beautiful exhibit here. Before we hear more about this exhibit though, I want to thank our sponsors. It takes support to be able to have the art walk, and so we want to thank those supporters. Our media sponsor is Eugene Magazine, and our art walk sponsor is Green Hill Humane Society, whose 10th annual Art for Animals event is coming up on November 10th, and you can find out more at green-hill.org. So we want to thank them. Give them a round of applause. And I'm going to turn it over to Karen because she has all the insight on this lovely exhibit, and I'm excited to hear more. Thanks so much.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for coming and hanging on to the very last stop. In fact, does anyone go to the 5th stop? So yay. Thank you all so much. Well, I opened an art gallery 15 years ago because my parents are amazing artists. And I thought, gosh, if I had it for a year, that would be a great experience. And because of their talent and support in this beautiful community, the gallery has been able to sustain itself, and I've been able to show other amazing regional artists. And this is a show of my late father's work. He passed away in January of 2016 at 80 years old, rather unexpectedly. And he had just had a show that had, this is 20-something paintings, and he had almost 40 paintings, new paintings, and he was just painted and loved it. And you know, he didn't care so much about, I mean, he just never get rid of any paintings if it was up to me, just kind of keep working on them. But anyway, he was best known as a landscape painter. And loved the Willamette Valley, you know, the Oregon coast, the farmland, the drive on Highway 99 between Eugene and where his grandparents lived when he was a kid in Forest Grove. And he spent 50, 60 years painting that farmland, this beautiful landscape. And he could, you know, when he was younger, he painted from direct observation, but he essentially memorized that landscape and the buildings, and you see that in some of the paintings here today. What a lot of people don't know him as much for are the figurative works. And when I inventoried his work after he passed with my mom did most of the work, but I was looking around and I was surprised how much figurative work there was. Things from the model, like on this wall there's a man with a hat, and then there's a young woman who a couple people have said, oh, is that you? And I was like, oh, you know, I wish maybe. I'm not sure. But it's, you know, he loved to go to Maud Kearns and start a painting from the model, and then he would take it back home, and he loved to just paint and work on painting. You know, he wasn't one just to finish it in a session and be done, move on to the next. He might have 20 canvases going, you know, that he'd been working on, some of them 2 or 3 years. He'd work in and out of them, so you get this rich, layered, you know, you say, okay, that's an orange background, but it looks like it's orange on top of gold, on top of green, on top of blue, and you get good light, and it's like little bits of it. And he was painting with acrylic, which shocks people. Painters will know, well, oils are so luminous, acrylics are flat. but it was the way he worked with them, and again, that layering, wiping away, working on them. Also, there's figures from memory. There's one in the middle here that looks exactly like my grandpa, but of course he doesn't indicate that in the title. It's just man with hat. He was very simple with his titles, but I was like, God, that looks like my grandfather in every way. But the reason I'm kind of all over the place today, I didn't really prepare anything to say because I've known my dad my whole life. But the timing of this show was very specific. My parents, Mark Clark and my mom's Margaret Coe, are being honored at the Jordan Schnitzer Museum in 2 weeks from tomorrow on October 21st. They're opening a retrospective exhibit called Mark Clark and Margaret Coe, Our Lives in Paint. And there's going to be a beautiful catalog with essays and images of their work. And that show opens on that's October 21st from 2 to 4 o'clock. There's a reception, and it's going to be just an enormous honor. There's work side by side, portraits of each other. It's a very personal journey through their relationship as artists. What else do I want to say about the show? My mom and I curated the show together. We tried to pull together some works that were really strong examples of key themes in his work this was sort of a classic Mark Clark, farm buildings, beautiful soft, what he used to refer to as myopic landscapes, very soft, just like, oh, is that my eyes? No, it's the way he painted. He would say, at one time he said, I like to let people fill in the leaves themselves. He didn't want things to be too specific, too tight. He was more about just that impression, like if you were taking a drive, looking out the window and you just sort of, saw it. You don't see everything, but you get the general shapes and the color and the light, the sense of light in his work. And it's very specific to this area, that kind of little bit of light's coming through, it's kind of overcast. This is the kind of work he's known for and will be known for. I think if you know his work and you drive in certain parts of Oregon, you can't see it and not think of Mark Clark if you know his work. Or that's me, I grew up seeing it. These farm workers, in the landscape, very classic. The other thing he's known for is making his own frames. In fact, when he was in high school in Junction City, he took woodworking, and he didn't know you could be an artist, so he thought, well, I'll be a wood shop teacher. And, he liked to make things. He painted some, but he didn't think that was something you could do. Am I going on too long? Is it okay? So, I'm like, I don't know, I spent like 2 hours talking about my dad. Anyway, that's very, hello. It's very characteristic, a Mark Clark in a Mark Clark frame. Not all of these were in his original frames. I had to actually go to the frame store for a handful of these, and you can tell by looking at the corners you can tell, oh, these are 2 pieces of wood joined together, and there's you see the commercial ones versus the ones he's handmade, and they really add something. And you'd say, oh, these are just old studio frames, but they're an extension of his piece, and they're something that they're something that people associate with his work.
What's the span?
The span of the work. A lot of this is fairly recent work. I've had the gallery for 15 years. There's a few of these that have been in the gallery before, or that are in that time period. There's a few older works, the beautiful nude under his name there, where I think that was not dated, but I think we guessed like 90s. That was probably like a model at Maud Kearns or something. That's an early work, the one directly across it, which I think is dated from the 70s when he was showing in Portland at Gallery West. That's an old gallery. It had that sticker. That's from the 70s. So it's not a retrospective, but there's just a few older pieces. The collages are not older, but they don't go back that far, but people do remember his collages from maybe 70s and 80s. The show at the museum will be a retrospective, so there's going to be works, 60s that look very much like his teacher from the University of Oregon, David McCosh. And in the book, there's going to be a page where they show a David McCosh and they show an early Mark Clark, and it's like, yeah, you can see the connection. He had wonderful training getting his undergraduate and graduate degree at the University of Oregon, and then prior to that he studied at Oregon State University, but he was influenced by a lot of other painters as well. If anyone knows the American 19th century painter George Inness's work, that may be the single largest influence on this really soft landscape work, but Inness even got more specific, I think, into the detail. And my dad was really going for mood and atmosphere and just that romantic sense of place. And, it's abstract enough that you can make it your own. It's not just telling you, it's allowing you to feel, the way, like, that's so beautiful, that's that specific moment of light. And I think he painted this in his studio, often with no reference, just painting it. And this is, he could take a drive and then come home and paint what he saw. I don't know if anyone's tried. I used to do that with my mom. She'd go, well, turn this way and look at this, and now turn away and paint that. And it's really hard. It's like, but he had that trained. He, like I was saying, he really memorized the landscape, but also loved figures and liked to do odd things every once in a while. There's a painting here that I'd never seen before that we pulled out of storage, and I thought, what is this? And so we had to frame it up. And it's, there's no explanation. There was no title. My mom called it, she goes, let's call it Artist and Muse, because there's a nude on the right, and it's like, what does this mean? But my dad never would have told what it meant. He probably purposely never told. He's like, this is an odd one, but it's really compelling. You've got this masked person. So as much as he loved the landscape, he just was in his own imagination doing these beautiful, surprising things all the time. And that's what he just loved to be in the studio. So anyway, this is just, I think a strong sampling of the types of work that he's done over the years. And then hopefully some of you will get to the museum show. It runs through something like April 1st. So it's a long running show, beautiful catalog they'll have. And, see, I think a couple of Eugene's most special artists, I'm biased, but and that put in 40, 50 years, working together in this area, and I think it's going to be a beautiful show and story, so hopefully you'll get a chance to see that show.
I'm going. Who's joining me? Let's go. Thank you so much, Karen. Does anyone have any questions? You're also welcome to talk to Karen after we stop here. This is our last stop, so enjoy this exhibit and this time here. How much longer are you open, Karen?
I'm here until you guys are ready to leave.
Nice. Very gracious.
I don't have any plans.
So I just want to let you all know that the next First Friday Art Walk is going to be November 3rd, so I hope you will join us for that as well. Thank you all for joining the Art Walk tonight, and a round of applause for Lane Arts Council and our dear Jessica Watson for organizing this wonderful event. It's such a treasure. Thanks again. Take care. My pleasure. My pleasure.